How's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. This monstrosity is the Coldsteel Ad15. Knife designed by Andrew Demko, produced by Coldsteel, and based off of his very popular custom knife, the MG15. It is yet another knife in his saga of knife models that end in a number which is either going to be 5 or 0. Regardless, today I'm excited, and the reason I'm excited is because I broke ground on a revolutionary new cut test that will once and for all prove whether or not this thick boy is going to hold up to the most rigorous of cut tests. If you want to see what that is, go ahead and stay with me because we're going to flip it around and do a deep dive in the overhead view to check out this Coldsteel AD15. Let's go. All right, so now we're up close and personal with the Coldsteel AD15. If you're like me, chances are that you've seen this knife before. You've probably seen it on every knife retailer out there. You've seen it on Amazon, which, by the way, I will be leaving a link for down below, as well as the other knives that will be shown in this video. So if you like that and you like me and you want to support the channel, and maybe you're looking at buying something on Amazon anyways, check the links below. I definitely appreciate it, even though it is not necessary. The Coldsteel AD15 is a big boy. If you saw my unboxing for this knife, I just couldn't get over how chunky it is. It is definitely not a slender man, but it could be carried by a slender man if he feels like he needs to compensate for something, or just by somebody that really wants to have a knife that can get the job done. This knife is thick. It is definitely not dainty, and it is not what I would consider to be a fidget-friendly knife, just because it is so big, and because of the texturing here on the G10 scales. That texturing is aggressive. Just as aggressive as the jimping on the top spine of this blade. Even the thumb stud, which is on both sides, it is ambidextrous, even the thumb stud is aggressive. But there is a lot to admire about this knife, aside from its size and its gratuitous nature. First and foremost, something that you cannot hide from is this scorpion lock. This is, as far as I'm aware, the only knife that has the scorpion lock. Except, of course, the original MG, AD15. But as far as production knives are concerned, this is the only knife that has it. Now, if you're interested in seeing how that works, I'll get up close here on this locking mechanism. This is what they call a yoke. The yoke basically has a bar that rolls along the top of the blade and expands. As it reaches the spine of the blade, there's a notch. Now, this yoke is actually part of the back spacer. And I did find out it is machined aluminum. And there's a spring back here. It's a high tension spring that keeps this blade in place. There is absolutely no blade play on this. Now, the lock is ingenious, and it's unlike the shark lock. This is a lock which is designed for hard use. The first thought that I have not been able to get over since I got this knife is that this feels like a folding fixed blade. I'm not really sure if you guys are interested in me verifying the specs that you can find on the retail websites, or if that's just boring. I don't make these videos for me, I make them for you guys. And when I watch another knife channel and they take the time to be tedious and they check how many thousandths behind the edge because they can't trust what the manufacturer website says, or they have to know what the ounce is on their measuring scale. For me, that's just kind of redundant. Luckily for us, if you're like me, check it out. Coldsteel does put the specs on the box. That's nice. S35VN steel, weighs 6.5 ounces. The handle length is 5 inches. Blade length is 3.5 with an overall length of 8.5. And check this out. They measure the blade thickness in millimeters. It's 3.8 millimeters. So yeah, checking out the spine of that blade, it's thick. However, Coldsteel did design this with a swedge at the top, which is supposed to offer relief when cutting through materials, which I like. It means that this knife was meant to be used. It's not meant to be absurd. Back to why I feel like this is a folding fixed blade. Talking about the yoke here, despite how solid this is, without putting any pressure on it, your hand becomes part of the lock. There's no way that you can hold this and have that knife break that lock. Your hand won't allow it, not to mention how sturdy the lock is already based on the tension of that spring. You know, I know that I give AD model knives a lot of crap because of this knife. This is the AD 20.5 in Grivery, whatever, and Oz 10.
But it's got the sharp lock.
But the handle scales are freaking so thin. They're so thin, and I hate it, and it feels cheap because it's Oz 10A and it's Grivery, and it costs $150 for this base model with the crappy pocket clip, which, by the way, I do want to get into. The pocket clip, and if you agree with me, let me know in the comments section down below. Is it just me, or is that pocket clip design the exact same design that Spyderco uses and has been getting away with for far too long? The spoon design, it bothers me. And I'll tell you why it bothers me, because this texturing, this G10 texturing, while it might be great if you're using it with gloves, ensures that it doesn't slip out of your hand during hard use scenarios, this texturing is going to rip up your pocket when you combine it with this pocket clip. The pocket clip has got to go. Now, luckily, I do feel like there are aftermarket options out there to replace this pocket clip. It means somebody out there agrees with me that it's got to go. Other things that make this knife unique is that it has not one but two pivots. The yoke has two pivots, one for the yoke and then one for the regular knife. As far as the action is concerned, the action is good. For a knife that's this heavy, 6.5 ounces, my lord. And then I know that it's got fingerprints all over it because I've just been handling it a lot. But the grind on here is nice and shiny. I don't think it'll last, but look at the grind on there. You've got perpendicular grinds, meaning that the grind on the hollow of the blade is going this way, and then for the flat up here it's going this way, and it creates a really nice dynamic. You get a close-up shot of that. You know, it's the small things, okay? Now, I know that one of your popular favorite YouTubers released a video a year ago being like, this knife is overpriced, and I won't name his name, but he also then shortly came out with a video on this knife, and no, not the 3V version, but this knife, the Oz 10 version, where he said for $150, this is great. So I don't understand why people can't be consistent. This knife right here, you can also get for about $150 on Amazon. I've seen it on other knife retail sites as high as $170. It has an MSRP of over $200, but you're not going to pay that. You go to the retailer, any knife retailer, and you won't pay MSRP. And if you are, you're paying too much. I can find this knife on Amazon, brand new from Coldsteel, about $150. It's not overpriced for that because you get machined aluminum, you get long G10 3D milled scales, you get good quality, and it cuts really well too. You might not believe me. You might be thinking, well, you know, that knife seems pretty thick. I bet it's not very slicey. And you know, this is not a I'm going to shave paper kind of knife, but I know that people like these tests. So I'm going to put this down for a second. Aha, here we have a priorities list with nothing on it. Let's see. Will it cut paper? Yes. No issues. Now I hate the paper cut test because just about every knife out there will cut paper. You know, they can be like, oh, well, look at the edges. Do you see any tearing? No, there is no tearing. Like, you can do little curly Q cuts. Here, I'll get that on screen. Let's try that again. You can get little curly Q cuts on this. And look at that. So, you know, big honking blade stock, little curly Qs. Can we stop cutting paper to determine how good the edge is and the edge geometry? I've got a better idea. This is a thick boy, and thick boys need thick boy cut tests. This is a Krispy Kreme strawberry donut. Will this cut this donut on its own if I just let it sit there? That looks like a clean cut, folks. You know, what about your push cut? This is a thick boy knife for a thick boy. Look at how clean those cuts are. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna put that away. I'll enjoy this later. If you agree with me that that's a much better cut test, put a comment down below. We need more Krispy Kreme cut tests. I might actually name this video the Krispy Kreme cut test. We'll see. If you're watching this, you'll know. Now, what you just saw me do was a one-handed closing of this knife. You can one-handed close this knife. It takes a little bit of getting used to because the action isn't natural to do this. What you have to do is you have to push with your thumb and pull with your index finger. So it looks like this. And if you're wondering what that clang was, I just dropped another knife. Luckily, everything is okay. But who is this knife for? This knife is for the person that cares about quality materials and also wants to use it. This is a user's knife, okay? You'll notice that I have not put a mirrored edge on this knife, and I'm not going to, because a mirrored edge is actually not great for, you know, everyday type tasks. It's just not. It's you want a toothier edge. You want to see the striations on that edge because that indicates a rougher grind, which is going to hold up more to, you know, your everyday type of tasks. And because this is a very thick blade stock thickness, and because this knife lock is actually very sturdy and only improved by the grip of your hand, you can use this as a camping knife. So if you go camping, if you work in construction, if you're a knife nerd, if you have an 80-20.5 and you're starting to think that you actually want a knife instead of, you know, one of these guys, then yeah, this knife is for you. Now, I know based on the comments that there are people that watch my videos and they say, you know, Rollshambo, that's an awesome knife. That's really cool, man. But like $100 is a lot for me to spend. $150 is a lot for me to spend. I want to spend under $100. The great news is that they do make a light version of this. And especially for you 80-20.5 fanboys who tell me that
Oz 10A is perfectly fine, and so is Grivery.
Guess what? For $80, you can get the light version of this. And I'll list that in the description down below as well. You can get the AD15 Light. And guess what? It's got Grivery handle scales. It's got Oz 10A steel. So there you go. If you're one of those people that thinks that that is the steel for you and that
you don't need no knife reviewer telling you what steel is worth it, and back in my day, 440 blah blah blah.
Great news for you. You can get an AD15 Light, and the only difference is the materials. Look at that. Coldsteel actually did something much better than Andrew Demko on his own by offering people the option. Hey, you want Oz 10A? You want Grivery? Is that acceptable to you? Here you go, sub $100. And then for the rest of us, you get up to the $150 price point on this bad boy, and it gives you S35VN. It gives you G10. It gives you, the aluminum yoke. And it tickles me because the 80-20.5, people are like,
dude, it's the lock. It's the locking mechanism, okay? Like, that's what makes it so expensive.
Here's a knife designed by the same person for the same price, also with a unique locking mechanism that is one hand open and close, and guess what? It doesn't cost $150 to make this knife in Oz 10A and Grivery. Just gonna put that out there. I am going to do another video with this knife, comparing it directly against the 80-20.5, because why not? But if I had both of those knives in front of me and I actually wanted a knife because I like to use knives every now and then, I would pick this knife. If I just wanted a fidget spinner, I would just buy this and not buy the 80-20.5 and Oz 10A. I know. I'm baiting the comments. The comments are going to get out of control. Put your opinion down below. It's a free country here where I'm posting this video, so if you don't like it or you disagree, please go ahead and comment. I appreciate the comments. But listen, guys, that is all I got for you.